Good afternoon. This is Mariana Mitchell, and here we are, week 4 presentation, where we're going to discuss public service in comparison to the private business. So here we have a brief overview of what to expect during this presentation. So first off, we're going to discuss a little bit about public versus private, some of their similarities, some of their differences, whether or not it matters, and then we'll conclude with the references that I've used to kind of examine this topic. So here we have the question, should government be more businesslike? And again, this is in comparison to public sector, which are governments, local cities, counties, states, and the federal, and versus the private sector, which are businesses that are typically ran for profit. So this little balancing beam about apples and oranges and the comparison between the two, they're similar in many ways, but different in some very important ways. So first off, we'll discuss some of their similarities. Here we have the fact that both businesses and public organizations are ran pretty similar. They both have to deal with organizational behavior. They both have very clear structure. They Gullix Pause Corp comes into play in both the public and the private sector when it comes to management and motivation. Both public and private sector businesses deal with Theory X and Theory Y, as notated by McGregor. So really, both of the public and the private sector are known for having to deal with people and organizations and employee management and motivation, and are very goal-oriented, both in the public and the private. Many of the government agencies will establish a general plan, and many of the private agencies will establish a business plan. So again, very organized in similar manners, which makes it lends itself to wanting to be business-like or comparing government to business. Next, we'll delve into some of the major differences. As I mentioned, there are many similarities in the way things function on both the public and the private sector. However, the biggest difference between the two are whether or not their end goal or what they're looking to accomplish. Are they trying to accomplish profits, or are they trying to do what's best for people? And in the private sector, it's very much about making a profit. It's people go into business for themselves because they want to make a profit. They are gauged on their success by how much they've increased their bottom line, versus the government. We're not here to make a profit on the services we provide. We're a public service, meaning that we're looking to constantly do what's best for the greater good. Another thing you'll notice is that, as was mentioned by Appleby, is that there's a certain attitude that comes with somebody who has an interest in dealing with public administration or working in public service, and that's the attitude of public interest. And again, doing what's right for the right reasons, for the right people, and not because it's going to make us a profit. And this you can see in many of our sports organizations. We have a number of football players, basketball players that make millions of dollars, hand over fist over some of our most reputable public agencies, or people who run those agencies, like the CEO of Riverside or San Bernardino County, or even our president, don't have the type of paycheck coming from the government that some of our athletic figures do. So those are some things that are different between the two. Also noting, who are our stakeholders. The stakeholders for a private entity is normally their investors, their employees, their board of directors, versus the stakeholders for a public entity. It's the citizens, it's the residents, it's the people that we have to answer to. And last but not least, I also feel in public administration, we're often also held to a higher standard when it comes to ethics and how we act, and how we take the responsibility of what we've been given, because we do have the responsibility of utilizing taxpayer funds in a transparent, responsible way that ultimately is for the greater good. You don't have that type of weight on you in a private sector business. The weight is a little bit different. The weight is whether or not you're going to make ends meet for that month, or you may have employees that rely on you meeting your quotas or your goals so that you can pay them, and then ultimately you can pay yourself. So the private versus the public, when it comes to being held to a higher standard, I think that's something that we always have to think about, especially when we're trying to think about accountability, when we're thinking about motivation for wanting to work or become a public administrator. We have to go into it knowing, again, with that attitude, that public service may not be for everybody, but it's for the right people who have the right goals in mind. So lastly, we have, does it matter? And the answer is yes, it absolutely does matter. I've got a funny little picture here of a gentleman lighting his cigar with a $100 bill, because what would government be like if we were actually profit oriented, if the government was looking to make a profit off of the residents, as opposed to doing what was right for the community or the greater good. So again, that's not the way we want to see our government run, which is basically how businesses are run. They're profit oriented. But then I've got this other picture where it's nice, it's serene, the rocks are being balanced, because I think that in the public sector there could be a little better balance between the two. I think in government we're pretty much known for giving away the farm for free. And I can speak from personal experiences working in the public sector, working for a local city. I used to work in the community services department, where we had a number of great events and activities that we provided for our youth, our families, and they were all free, low cost or no cost. And even if we did charge a cost, it was very nominal. Our after-school program, our fee-based one, was on $5 a day, $25 a week, $100 a month. You can't find childcare for that much in the private sector. So again, we're used to wanting to do what's good for the community, but sometimes we don't think about, are we doing what's responsible? Because although the community gets used to having these low or no cost activities, when we can no longer do it because we can't afford it, because of the minimum wage increase, or because of difference of priorities of city council, we still have to answer to our citizens. So again, there kind of needs to be a little bit of a balance. Maybe we don't have to give everything away for free, or maybe try and cover some of our costs, but when it comes to public versus private, I definitely think there's some argument to wanting to make government a little more business-like, but ultimately government is here for the people. Public administrators are here to do what's best for a organization, a city, a county. So that's really what the interest is, and really that can't be replaced by any type of business plan. And really it's all about having the right people in the right places to make this really work. So someday we may get back to Max Weber's ideal bureaucracy, by maybe implementing some of the business-like structures in today's business world. However, we're still very much people-oriented. This is what the government is here for. We're here to provide for the people, and we've got to find a way to balance both. How do we continue to be solvent while offering great programs for the people we provide for? So that's my take on this, and last but not least, I have my conclusion with the references that I utilized to gather this information, and I look forward to any feedback. Thank you all very much, and I hope you all have a great weekend.